Hello, Megan Thompson here with Megan Thompson Coaching, and today we are speaking all about hair cutting meltdowns. So, if you are parenting a sensitive kid who experiences big emotions and those emotions are out of control and your kiddo is melting down, hitting, kicking, screaming, freaking out, body on the floor, or running away, and you're struggling to get your kid a haircut, then today you want to listen in to see what works. Now, first things first, I want to cover the challenge that parenting a sensitive kid can pose when you're stuck in the meltdown cycle. So, if you're dealing with meltdowns on a daily basis and your child is over the age of 2, then it is very important to understand that this is not developmentally appropriate. Meltdowns over the age of 4 is not developmentally appropriate for any child, even if you're highly sensitive. So when we think about regular meltdowns over the age of 4, if that's happening multiple times a week, multiple times or daily or multiple times a day, then it's not developmentally appropriate. It's really important for you to notice that, even if there's a sensory intensity coming on for a highly sensitive child. So we're going to speak all about the haircut experience, going to get your kids haircut, and what to do about that, how to break down the cycle today. And it's very important to understand that if your child is over the age of 4, then that intensity is likely due to emotional intensity rather than sensory intensity only. And it's really important to understand that. So let's break down what's going on, right? So you might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, my kid experiences tactile sensations, things touching their skin as a very intense experience, and you're telling me that we can stop those meltdowns, right? Yes, absolutely. So here's what we're talking about. What's important to understand, first things first, is that I understand where you're coming from. It might be very difficult for you to understand or like to think that I know what's happening, right? So let's cover it. Highly sensitive kids who don't know how to manage their big emotions can experience the world without those skills as if they're going through the world without skin. Now, if you don't have skin and you're being prickled by those tiny little bits of hair that go anywhere and everywhere when your hair is getting cut, and there's a buzzer by your ears, or there's shears going shp, 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 by your ears, and I'm not going to try and mimic scissors anymore, but that in and of itself is overwhelming. Yes, there's a sensory component to this. Your child's sensations are on fire, and it's also true that the nervous system, your body's signal of danger, is even more intense when you don't know how to regulate your emotions or you're constantly stressed. So I'm not saying that feeling those teeny tiny little prickles on your skin is not overwhelming for your kid. That was a double negative. It is overwhelming for your kid to feel the teeny tiny prickles. Getting a haircut, getting a trim is a sensory experience. Even as an adult who's not highly sensitive, I don't like feeling that prickly hair on my back either, right? Hairdressers use the wrap, whatever it's called, robe. I don't know. Whatever it's called. I was going to say body curtain, and that's not it. That's basically what it feels like. They use that for a reason, right? Because for the most part, nobody wants to feel those hair pieces prickling on their skin, and because it's messy. And for highly sensitive kids, that doesn't cut it. But ching, no pun intended. It's not solving the problem, putting that big old tent on your body and hoping for that to be enough, right? So sensitive kids can definitely experience an intense amount of emotion as well as physical sensation intensity. I think I already said intense. And that's important to note. That's happening. Yes, it's happening. And your kid can survive a haircut in a hairdresser, hair salon, with a hairdresser. that is absolutely something that you can work towards for your child. And I think it's really important because many times when parents bring this up, whether they're addressing this in our Facebook group or that's mainly where we see a lot of parents bring this up in the community, in the free Facebook group that we host. And when that's the case, right, a lot of times we see parents advise just going and learning how to cut their kids' hair, and trying to figure out how to do it themselves, because maybe mom or dad or parent or caregiver is a safe communicating adult. They can take their time, they can pace themselves, right? You might be able to pace yourself with your child and to do it very, very slowly. But if your child's still experiencing that as torturous, then there's still a major issue here with your child's emotional capacity to regulate themselves. And that is not just a sensation experience. We see kids with tactile touch, sensation, intensity, decrease that intensity time and time again with the parents that we work with through our program in boot camp. And we know that is just one signal that the meltdown cycle is emotional and intensely triggered by emotions. And it's not the only thing, right? If your kid is only having meltdowns because of touch sensations, tactile sensations, then that might be more of an issue related to the sensory component. But if your kid's also having meltdowns related to big changes in their lives, big challenges, feeling like they disappoint other people, not getting it right the first time, and then your child's more likely highly sensitive in their personality trait, which is a temperament. And so if that's the case, then it's not just a sensation issue, and you need to make sure that you're not creating more environment scenarios that perpetuate the problem, right? So if you're trying to solve the problem right now by learning how to cut your kid's hair, and that is what you're seeing as a solution to help your kid tolerate having their hair cut, I really want to notice that is a short-term solution. It might get the job done right now, right? Might be less painful than watching your kid lose their mind in public in a seat or around other people who are trying to be, have a relaxing experience, right? Getting your hair cut could feel soothing because you're caring for your body. Could feel intentional with that self-care. So definitely something that some people enjoy. And so as a parent, if you're taking your kid to a hair salon, you can be really embarrassed if your child is struggling in that moment. And your child could feel embarrassed not only for themselves, but for the other people around them, for you. So that obviously adds to the issue. And if your child's having meltdowns in other avenues of their life and for other reasons, then just bringing your kid home and learning how to cut your kid's hair isn't going to end the meltdown cycle. This is just one part of the puzzle. It is a symptom of a bigger problem. And that's really important, because when you think about symptom, thinking of it from a medical standpoint, if your child needs a bigger issue solved, and you're putting a Band-Aid on something that needs surgery, then that's really, really important to understand. We need to turn it around with a better solution, right? So it's important to understand that you cannot just plug up a geyser, right? That's going to pop really quickly, and you'll get leaks before it pops. So noticing that and noticing that that's only a short-term solution. It's not a long-term solution. It actually can perpetuate the problem. We're going to talk a lot about that today. So, and that's really important for you as a parent to notice. So let's notice that, right? We talked about the nervous system. What happens when your child's skin feels like it doesn't have any skin, right? If you didn't have any skin and you're pouring little bits of freshly cut hair and all of its prickliness on your wound, that's going to feel weird. It's going to feel uncomfortable, right? I'm trying not to be graphic, and it's also true that this is a graphic experience your kid is having in their own body, and we need to legitimize that. We need to make sure that you understand this is a big deal for your kid because they don't have all the skills to regulate their emotions. And so when that's the case, then the just figuring out how to get their hair cut another way doesn't help your kid feel powerful, doesn't help your kid feel capable. And that's really, really important, because when you think about what you're doing, when you learn how to cut your kid's hair, sure, you're handling the hygiene, right? If your child needs to wear a certain haircut in order to meet school requirements, if your child needs to wear a certain haircut in order to make brushing hair less of a debacle at home, then you have needs that are time sensitive. And so right now, cutting your kid's hair might be a temporary solution. But when you're doing that, you need to also be working on teaching your child how to regulate their emotions, because you won't be able to create that same solution for other sensory intensities. And it's really important to not be short-sighted on this, because we see this time and time again. We see parents over and over again celebrating their kids being fully capable of wearing underwear after 8 weeks of working on emotion regulation through, in our work together, where their child was having knockdown, drag out, 90-minute meltdowns. No way, Jose, I am not putting that clothing on, right? We see clothing meltdowns go away. Children feel capable of tolerating the discomfort, or being able to notice that it's not that big of a deal. And that is an emotional assessment, right? So when sensory, tactile intensity on the skin issues are added to emotional intensity, then that can really create a lot of muddy waters for you as a parent. You're wondering, is this that big of a deal from a sensory standpoint? Or is it just emotions? And if it's just emotions, can my kid, quote unquote, grow out of it? Can my kid move on from this intensity? Can they feel capable? And we see that happen time and time again for our clients. And so I think it's really, really important to notice that children can feel capable of tolerating physical discomfort when they learn how to tolerate and manage their emotions and feel capable of managing their emotions. And so I think that's really, really crucial. Now, what's also important to notice is that your child might have a sensory intensity. They might meet criteria for sensory processing disorder, and as a result are also highly sensitive. That might be true. You can go ahead and watch my video describing that, or listen to our show describing that. We're not going to cover that today. And two things can be true. Your child can have the personality trait and meet the criteria for sensory processing disorder. And if that's the case, your child needs sensory strategies that will help them tolerate that sensation more effectively. And those strategies are uncomfortable. So if your kid is in OT, receiving occupational therapy, or you're working on this intensity yourself by trying to wrap your kid's neck with a towel, by trying to capture all of the hair immediately by using scissors and holding the hair and quickly throwing it out of the way so that it doesn't fall on your kid. We've seen parents say that they cut their kids' hair when they're sleeping so that they are unconscious when, and so therefore not able to consciously notice it, right? So if that's the case, then there's clearly some intense sensations going on for your kid, but there's also an emotional component. And when the emotions are calm, not unconscious, I'm not encouraging you to only cut your kids' hair when they're conked out. And so, when your kids' emotions are calm, they're going to be able to be more receptive to the sensory intense strategies that you need to use. So we see time and time again parents who have their kids in occupational therapy either speed up that prognosis, that work in the treatment plan, or notice that the need for sensory support is much less of a requirement once the emotion regulation is on board and working effectively. And so I really want to speak about that. Now, functioning effectively, I guess, is a better word, because I always say your kid's not broken. Doesn't mean that something's not working. It's just inefficient and it's not effective, right? So let's cover that, right? It is completely inefficient for you to have to stop everything, to clear your house, to clean up everything, and to learn how to cut your kid's hair, and to do that, compared to being able to run the errand and take your child to a hair salon. And so you can chalk it up to picking your battles and saying, you know what, we'll deal with it when my kid's older. And my question to you is, how are you going to teach your child to be ready when they're older? The same thing is very important to notice is that this type of sensation intensity doesn't go away without emotion regulation skills in combination with sensory related skills. If your child is actually experiencing an intense sensation, and it's not just because of the fear of what if the scissors cut them, or the fear of what if they don't like the haircut, right? So a lot of that could be very well just emotional, and your child is struggling with that. And it's very important to understand that difference needs to be teased out. Because approaching emotions, sensations from the side of emotions is always relevant. And so when we think about this from the standpoint of noticing that you're focusing on solving the problem related to haircuts, that's just one part of the puzzle, right? So it's also important to notice for your kid that if they're going to go to the dentist and that sensation of getting their teeth cleaned is really stressful, and they feel that toothbrush on their teeth, they hear the buzzing of the toothbrush, the bright lights, even if your kid's dentist is giving them sunglasses, all of that is very, very intense. And with that experience, you won't be able to help your kid forego the dentist, right? There are some medical concerns that you want to stay on top of. So you can't go get a dental degree in a year in order to keep on top of your kids' dental appointments. So sure, maybe cutting your kid's hair is a temporary solution, but it doesn't teach how to support your child with the underlying cause of why they're freaking out. And that's really important to notice and to make sure that you're parsing and spacing your progress there. It teaches your child that they're not capable, and it also teaches your child that you walk on eggshells, that you don't believe that they're capable, that you need to go learn skills, and that their skills are supposed to work and they don't. And so as a result, you as a parent are the one that's supposed to learn all the skills. And so when we think about that doesn't send the message to your kid that they can control their own experiences, that they can choose how they experience something. And obviously telling your kid that without teaching them the skills is super invalidating, right? Hey kid, this isn't that big of a deal, you should just suck it up, is not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about teaching your kid to just suck it up and deal. That's very, very invalidating, and it teaches your child that they should already have the skills that they don't. And the opposite, which is I'm a parent, I should only be the one learning skills, also is counterproductive. So that's really important to understand. And we see countless times parents whose kids are just ignoring the haircuts and not taking care of it, not from a self-expression standpoint, right? So obviously, I have no qualms about kids of any gender having hair at different lengths. That's not what I'm talking about, that your kid needs to fit any sort of fashionable mold. What I'm talking about is being able to ensure that your kid fits their hygiene needs, and you not having to learn all the skills without your kid learning those skills. So what you want to be able to do is teach your child that they can, teach them that they're capable, that they're managing their own capacity to do that. And you need to be able to do that playfully, systematically. Help your child learn what it feels like to feel that hair prickly on their skin, to feel that hair prickly on their neck without freaking out. And that obviously takes time. It takes skills for you as a parent, not hairdressing skills. But emotion regulation skills for you as a parent. And then you need to be able to teach your child those emotion regulation skills next. Now we know for sure that highly sensitive children learn best through learning skills through their parents. The parent-child relationship is the catalyst for kids feeling totally capable of managing their own emotions. That it has been proven time and time again in multiple research studies by several highly sensitive researchers. And that relationship is not only first and foremost the catalyst for that change, but also because right now, if you don't feel capable of leading your child is going to read that from you. So it goes both ways. Even if you think you have enough skills to regulate your own emotions, if you don't know how to teach your child to regulate their emotions, they read you like a book. And so that's really important to understand as well. So you need to be the one teaching your child those skills. And many of you who have been following us for a while or have just found us might have struggled with that, might feel like you're throwing all the skills at the wall to see what sticks, might feel like your kid is learning a skill and it works for a week and then you're playing whack-a-mole because it stops working, it loses the novelty. So what that means is that there's some pretty key components in your strategy that's missing. You might be teaching skills that are relevant, but I speak often to my clients that one of the things that's important to understand is that there's a recipe to this success. That success requires certain steps to be happening in certain order. And we've helped over 200 families at this point break out of that meltdown shutdown cycle. And in order to notice that there's certain steps that happen in certain orders, I like to liken it to baking brownies, right? You're going to get salmonella if you put the eggs on last. Your brownies are also going to taste less tasty if you use confectioner's sugar compared to granulated sugar, right? Your child might also have certain needs. You might need to use gluten-free flour and xanthan gum instead of wheat flour or white flour. And that requires an expert's not only opinion, but also experience and troubleshooting back and forth with you as a parent. And so that's why the supports that you need not only require a system, but also direct troubleshooting. And so that's why we support our clients with 24/7 access to us. We respond to parents in coaching support outside of a direct appointment, so that you can address things like, how do I get my kid's hair cut on a Saturday, right? For Auntie Jane's or cousin Julie's communion tomorrow, right? And that need is can be pressing or time sensitive, and parents who are stuck in this cycle, it's really hard to wait a week to see if the strategy you're using is effective. If you're going to weekly appointments to turn this around, that can be one of the reasons why things aren't working well for you. So I think about being able to choose how to break out of this cycle. It might be that you need to work with a professional to do that. And so if that's the case and you're considering working with our team, I would encourage you to book a call with us. I don't know if we can help you. My team and I need to have a conversation, or one of us needs to have a conversation with where you're stuck. Again, like I mentioned, if this is a meltdown cycle you're in, daily, multiple times a day or multiple times a week, where your kiddo is losing their mind and their big behaviors are super intense, then there's a cycle here, and that needs to be broken down and shifted out of. You need to be able to playfully express emotions clearly and concisely with your child so that they feel capable. You need to be able to give your kid feedback in an effective way so they don't experience shame when you're giving them that feedback, so they don't shut down and feel incapable. And you need to be able to do that in a strategic way so that you're not targeting every single behavior at once. And that exhausts you. It also exhausts your child and perpetuates the problem. And so there needs to be a certain order to tackle some of these big behaviors so that your child feels capable and you experience success, so you keep going. So here's the deal. If we think that we're a fit, we'll tell you all about how that works on that phone call. But if we think that there's something that is more appropriate, like, for example, solely occupational therapy, local to your own community, then we let you know that. And we support you in figuring out what would be the best fit, what sort of training a professional needs to serve you, and that obviously requires a phone conversation. So we're happy to have that conversation. It is free. So go ahead and book that call with our team. I encourage you first to go ahead and head over to our masterclass. If you're stuck in the meltdown cycle and you don't know how to break out of it, watch what we teach works. And head over to megganthompsoncoaching.com/5 steps. And that'll send you over to our free masterclass, and you can take a look at the 5 shifts that our parents make, the clients that we work with make to break out of that meltdown cycle. And then for parents of teens, you go over to megganthompsoncoaching.com/5steps_teen to watch the webinar that we have, the masterclass we have for you to learn if you're parenting a teen who's shutting down and struggling intensely with their big emotions and sensations that they're experiencing. So encourage you to go ahead over to those trainings, take a look at it, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.